Hello again, YouTube. Well, just when you think you've heard it all, or heard all the questions relating this C19 virus, something else comes along like this: should pubs close to open schools? Where is the frigging logic in closing a pub to open a school? As you'll see from what they say, their argument is that these people that are going out to the pubs are going to pick up the virus and take it back home with them and then transfer it to the kids, and it's going to spread through to the schools. But come on, use your bloody common sense. What about the people that are going to supermarkets? Probably in closer proximity to each other than you would be in a pub, especially with the new guidelines that are in pubs now. So you go into the supermarket, you're brushing up next to somebody, picking something off a shelf, you go home, you're just as likely to give your kid this C19 virus than you would coming home from the pub. It's absolutely balmy. Anyway, have a listen to what they say.
Let's come to you first of all, Genevieve. What do you feel is the risk of keeping pubs open if schools are going to go back in September?
So I think that there's so much risk involved with reopening schools in September. I think as a teaching community, we have had a lot of concerns with bringing students back to school, having a full reopening. They are one of the most important mass gatherings in the country. And so, there are parents who are possibly going to be frequenting pubs who may possibly be exposed to risk to the exposure of COVID-19, and that possible transmission is a real concern for a lot of us educators. And speaking, directly from my point of view,
so only pubs have got COVID-19 now.
Real concerns as to how this could actually affect teachers and the students that we are teaching each day. And so we're completely empathetic to pub owners.
No, you're not.
To have a real risk of having a negative impact and detrimental impact on what their livelihood is. But I think as education being our main priority, there needs to be real consideration as to the risk involved in transmission within schools from September onwards.
Jonathan, let's come to you because, of course, your business thrives on people coming through the door. You've not been able to get them through the door for such a long time. Lockdown got lifted and then suddenly you're allowing them back in. And here we are in a situation where the government is suggesting, or the theory is that actually at some point the compromise in order to get the kids back to school could be that bars and pubs have to close. What was your initial reaction when you heard that?
Well, I don't know why it needs to be an either or. I mean, obviously health and education are priorities compared to going out to the pub. But community and the economy are important too. And without pubs, clubs, bars, restaurants and other businesses open and generating tax receipts, there won't be any schools and there won't be proper funding for the NHS. And so it's really important that we keep our economy going. Pubs and bars, restaurants are some of the safest and most sanitary spaces in our country. We've been training our staff better than NASA astronauts over the last few weeks to be prepared to deal with COVID-19 issues. And I don't see that this is an either-or question. The question is,
one of the problems, Jonathan, that you're training your staff, and a lot of bars are trying to be responsible as they possibly can to train their staff in a way to cope with COVID-19. But we have seen a couple of pubs, particularly at the heart of local outbreaks, pubs in Sunderland, some in Aberdeen as well, where somebody has gone to the pub and then has infected a few more people because the person...
Well, I'm going to stop him there because a couple of people have infected somebody else in a pub. That's one pub. How many people have been affected by going to the supermarkets? You don't hear about that on the news. What a load of bullshit.
Dean was waiting for the results of their COVID test, thinking that they were going to be negative, and they weren't. And the issue is, as well, and we've seen it, and I've been out and about, I've not been to pubs, but after people have had a few drinks, it gets harder and harder to properly social distance.
I think, well, there has been a focus on incidents like that, but they are rare and they are outliers. That is not the norm. That is not what we're seeing. We're seeing very carefully managed businesses across the country, and that will continue if we're allowed to stay open. We have to stay open. We have to keep going. We can't keep locking down. The local authorities have got wide-ranging powers to take steps and action where pub owners or pub managers are not operating within the guidelines. And those rules already exist. And I just think we need to allow our businesses to keep going. Hospitality, 4.5 million people in this country rely on hospitality for their job. That's 15% of the workforce. You know, we're gonna be locking down lives and livelihoods forever if we're not careful. And at some stage, we've just got to accept that pubs aren't dangerous spaces. They are well managed. We've got to keep them open. We generated £140 billion of revenue last year for the UK economy. That's vital for schools. That's vital for hospitals and everything else that makes our country what it is. We can't keep shutting things down on an arbitrary, occasional basis like this. We just can't keep going like that.
Well, Professor Ball, let's talk to you, Chair of Public Health at...
Yeah, you can't keep going like that. Well, unfortunately, it's bad news for you, for all pubs and all businesses, because we all know where this is heading. We all know what the agenda is, what the goals are. It beggars belief that you think you've heard it all, you've seen it all, and then they come up with some other shit like this, excuse my French. I mean, come on. First of all, it was all about reducing the curve and the things you could do. Wash your hands, wear your mask, wear goggles. Now doctors are even saying you get it, people have got it in their ears and passing it through their ears. What are we going to do? We'll walk around with bloody earmuffs on now. And if you're over 6 foot tall, oh my God, you're in serious danger of catching it if you're over 6 foot. So everybody, get some extra thick padded gloves and start walking around on your hands. See you later.